How's it going, guys? Mr. EMP here for MrEyeMakePlays TV, and I wanted to start off this video by saying thank you guys for making the Tempest Guide video my first one to hit 200 views. I know that's not a lot, but for me it means so much. And to follow up, I'm trying to get these other guides out to you as soon as possible, but I want to maintain some integrity. It's not a fast process. See, I don't like talking out of the side of my neck about things that I know nothing about. So I've been putting a lot of time into Spellbreak and its classes so that I can tell you guys about them. Since the release a month ago, I've managed to grind to mage rank 39 and level each class up to either 10 or more. In that time, I've learned a lot about the game in each individual class. So today, we focus on Toxicologist. Now I know the class is called Toxicologist and that's cool and all, but I was thinking, to sit here and have to say the word Toxicologist over and over would really suck. I mean, here, just listen to it. Toxicologist. Just so many vowels and so many syllables cluttering my headspace and making my mouth move a mile a minute. So for the purposes of this video, I had an idea. I came up with a way better name for this class. One that captures the essence of toxicity. One that is straight to the point and may even help some people get a better idea of how to use it. One that, if we're being honest, is just fun to say. Give me a chance here. Hear me out. Splooge Shotty Specialist. That's right, in today's video we're going to show you vowel breakers out there how to spread your splooge and make your opponent stick to your sick until you shoot straight to your lobby's summit. The class description says that it focuses on damage over time and stealth. Using this playstyle can certainly win you a fair share of games, and I'll go over how in just a bit. But the Splooge Shotty Specialist is a specialist because he isn't forced to play by the tenets of his class description. The Splooge Shotty Specialist can do high burst damage the same as he can do damage over time. And he can engage loud and proud just as well as he can be stealthy. It's up to you to find out what playstyle works best for you and continue to work on that. Hopefully this guide puts you in a position to do so. And position is the key word when it comes to the Splooge Shotty Specialist because, as the name suggests, your primary weapon functions very much like a shotgun. The closer you are to your target when you let off, the more damage that they'll take. From afar, the weapon fires in a spreading arc motion, and if it hits here, it'll do a couple of ticks of damage over time, but it likely won't do enough damage to kill anything. You're going to want to be up close and personal to really take advantage of the primary fire and the burst damage that goes with it. In a high mobility game like Spellbreak, that can be a bit difficult. Players with classes like Conduit and Frostborn are going to give you a hard time as you attempt to close your distance. The standard and suggested solution here is to be as stealthy as possible, equipping invis runes and taking advantage of Vanishing Mist, a skill that we'll go over in just a bit. Once you are in close, you're in a prime position to do some damage, but also take some as well. Stone, Pyro, and other Splooge players have gauntlets that are built for head-on engagements, so your approach is going to require a bit of finesse most times to pull off good hits without trading damage. As a Splooge player, it's very important to know what you're up against and whether it's best to approach a particular player at a particular time or angle. Like most shotguns, the rate of fire isn't all that great, so it's important to hit your shots once you are up and close, because whiffing can put you in a bad position and your next shot may not come out quick enough to compensate. What differentiates the primary here from your normal run-of-the-mill shotgun? The level 1 skill, Viscosity. Ugh, I hate saying that word. Viscosity. Just nasty. Speaking of nasty, I guess that's the best way to describe what the skill does. It leaves sticky toxic puddles wherever you fire, rooting you or your opponent to the ground until you jump and doing damage over time as long as they're stuck. This is far more dangerous than it sounds to both you and your opponent. Restricted movement can be the difference between life and being banished to the lobby realm. This is never a good thing, but on landing, this can be devastating. Rooting a player with no movement rune can mean a free shot or two from either yourself or your team. If you're close enough when you root them, popping them in the face with a second Splooge spread can end the game before it even gets started. The Splooge sorcery is a toxic cloud that does damage over time, similar to when you connect with your toxic spray primary fire from afar. The difference here is that it will continue to damage your opponent as long as they stay inside it. Now for the most part, they're not going to stay inside the cloud that's killing them. That would be stupid. That's why the toxic cloud does more than damage. When you reach the second level, you get the skill Vanishing Mist that I mentioned earlier. Vanishing Mist not only makes you immune to your own toxic clouds, but it also shadow steps you as you enter. You'll go invisible for 3 seconds and can dash in whatever direction you please to make for some great engages or escapes. This gives you additional mobility if you chose to go with a more stationary rune, like the Invis rune, for your actual rune slot. The toxic cloud can also be used defensively, as the cloud it creates is thick and green, like Fiona. Putting it in between you and your opposition can break line of sight and give you a chance to slip away and or heal up. Furthermore, you can use the cloud to turn enemy attacks back on them. If someone insists on shooting lightning at you, you can throw a toxic cloud in his line of fire to shock and slow him down. The same thought process can be applied to an enemy throwing fireballs at you. A well-timed gas cloud can end up blowing it up in an enemy's face when they add fire. Of course, you can actively use the combinations just as well by equipping the offhand gauntlets and coordinating with your team. Give me a bit and we'll go over the best ones to use here. Now, I mentioned earlier that Toxic Cloud gave you a shadow step when you enter it, right? An invisible Splooge shooter is perhaps the most dangerous Splooge shooter, and they always have a way to access invisibility as long as they have a Toxic Cloud. The reason they want to always have access to Invis is because of their level 3 skill, Outbreak. This makes the Toxic Spray primary fire do 75% more damage if you strike while invisible. You may remember that the Toxic Spray is already a Shotty that does a good amount of damage when at close range. It can do even more when you're invisible. Outbreak is the thing that makes this class so scary on its own. When combined with some of the talents that are available, Outbreak's damage can be upped even more to the point where even a legendary belt rips like paper. The level 4 skill is called Spreading Sickness, and this has to be the most straightforward out of all of them. It changes your sorcery from firing 1 toxic cloud to firing 3 of them. You can fire these further and they'll spread out to 3 individual clouds to cover a battlefield, or you can shoot them up close and personal to make 1 massive toxic cloud to confuse an opponent and switch positions. The cloud functions the exact same, which means they can be used the same ways, either offensively or defensively, depending on your builds. And speaking of builds, we're going to do this a bit different than what I did for Tempest. There, I broke down the best talents to use and sort of explained why I felt they were either good or bad. Most of the stuff I said there still applies, and just about always will for whatever class we're talking about. So I thought it would be more effective to show you guys some builds that I came up with for the class, including which runes I think would work best. Now the first build I have here is called Solid Splooge. This is the stealth class that most Splooge Shotty specialists are going to want to run. This build has you carrying the standard Invis rune or the Shadow Step depending on your preference. I like to run the normal Invis as it gives me more of a chance to heal or survey the battlefield as I need to. With this, you run Runic Fluency to maximize your invisibility time. This is going to give you more of a chance to run up on your opposition undetected so you can unleash Splooge. You then run either Scavenger or Fervor depending on the game mode. Scavenger works well on solos, but not so much squads or duos. Fervor allows you to strike faster, which can help you put an enemy away when dealing with Shotty's lower fire rate. It makes it so that you can miss and fire off again without so much delay. Finally, you're going to want to run Thirsty to heal faster while invis. With this, you can make an enemy regret losing track of you, even for a second, if you go invis and heal up anytime they hit you. Now, you should really only be fighting on your terms here, so I run a Frost Gauntlet on my offhand for this one. The invis can give you ample time to set up a sniper shot from afar, and is a ranged option that fits the burst damage theming that this class is going for. In addition, the sorcery can help when they cut distance before you're ready. Once they're frozen, the Shotty should be able to do the rest. This is your hit and run build. You're going to want to take someone by surprise with your engage, cut line of sight, and then finish them off. You're going to want to be in Viz as much as possible and pick your victims carefully. You are the hunter here. This is a good solo build, as I said earlier. It can work in squads, but you have to make sure you're hitting your shots, as otherwise you're not drawing any aggro from your teammates. The second build is called the Sensitive Splooger, as this one is more of a glass cannon. The focus here is on incredibly high damage. Again, here we're going to go with the Invis Rune or Shadow Step. The difference here is going to be in the talents. First, for this build, we have Focus Mana to add damage. The second talent is going to be Fortitude, which allows you to tank one incoming source of damage. This serves as shielding of sorts. As a third talent, Recklessness gives another damage buff as long as you are not wearing a shield, or your shield is depleted. The playstyle here is very similar to the first build, but much more conservative. It's even more important that you find the right target and approach them in the right manner, as most of the time you won't be wearing a belt to protect yourself. The trade-off here is that it's possible to two-shot somebody in the right circumstance, which is insane. I take a Stone Gauntlet in my offhand here, as the increased damage is going to be rough anytime an opponent hits the ground. Again, another build with solos in mind. You may find success with this one in squads, however, as you're going to have to thrive jumping in and out of chaotic situations. The final build I have for you here is called Splooge Bomber. This build takes advantage of Dragonfire to cause massive explosions and do equally massive damage. The go-to rune here is going to be Flight, as it allows you to fly over the battlefield and drop toxic clouds before you ignite them. This playstyle works even better once you hit max level in game, as you gain the Spreading Sickness ability. The first talent you take here is going to be Tracking, so you can see who's inside of your gas clouds easier. The second is Fervor, so that you can launch your combinations faster. And the third is up to you. You would either go with Thirsty or Recovery, depending on what your preference is for healing. The idea behind this one is to blow everything up. That's it. So you equip a Fire Gauntlet in your offhand and you go to town. This one works better in squads, as you can support your teammates in their fights. This is another where you're going to thrive jumping in and out of chaotic situations. Alright, that's it for the builds. Thank you for checking out my video, and please believe there will be more to come in the coming days. Sorry these guides are taking a bit, but as I said, I want to make sure I properly take the time to explore each class before I go offering advice. After this, I should be working on the Pyromancer guide and a couple more videos that should be a lot of fun. Be on the lookout for those, and keep it locked to MrEyeMakePlays TV so that eventually you can make plays like me. If you want to see me make plays live, go over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MrEyeMakePlays. Links to that and my social media tags will be down in the description. Thank you all for watching this vid, and I will see you next time for more Spellbreak content.